Human Rights Watch has been deeply engaged in what's now called humanitarian disarmament, looking at weapons that pose unacceptable dangers to civilians. We were at the forefront of efforts to ban blinding lasers, to ban anti-personnel landmines, and to ban cluster munitions. We now think that the future development that's out there in terms of killer robots, fully autonomous weapons, is perhaps the most dangerous threat to civilians for the future. We're calling for a preemptive, comprehensive prohibition on killer robots. We don't think that you'd be able to have regulations that would work. History has shown with other weapons that if you just try to have a complicated set of regulations, they get misinterpreted or more often ignored. If you have a comprehensive prohibition, you're able to stigmatize the weapon, and that will affect even those who don't join a future treaty. As a starting point, we think that you shouldn't cede the ability to target and kill people to machines. I think that's just morally and ethically wrong. Crosses the line. But we also think that there's a whole host of legal and technical and proliferation and policy concerns, problems for the future that, taken together, make it clear that these should not even be pursued, especially on the legal side, where we just have a hard time believing that you'd ever be able to develop weapon systems that on their own would be able to distinguish properly between civilians and combatants, would be able to undertake the kind of human reasoning and understanding that it takes to determine whether or not any individual attack will have more military benefit than it does danger to civilians. And that's required by law. With drones, you do always have meaningful human involvement. You have an operator who steers it. You have an operator who decides, who looks at the target and decides what target to choose and decides when to fire. With fully autonomous weapons, killer robots, you take the man, the person, out of the loop. And it's the weapon system itself that goes into the dangerous environment and makes decisions about targeting and killing. And we think that, that's just wrong. The movement toward ever greater autonomy in weaponry and in warfare is not going to stop. And we're not calling for a halt to that. In fact, there could be some real benefits to greater autonomy in weapons and warfare. Whether or not it will save manpower and money is an open question, because you're going to have to still hire programmers and do all kinds of other high-tech things that would be associated not with actually pulling the trigger, but with preparing machines to do so. But in the end, whether you are saving money in order to pursue these weapons or not should not be the determining factor. When you've got the possibility of serious violations of international humanitarian law, of international human rights law, combined with the ethical concerns about pursuing these weapons, it's quite clear that from the beginning they should be prohibited. Most governments don't have policies on this yet. They're still just trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, the technology has been racing ahead, but the politics of it, the policies on it have fallen behind. But that's changed over the course of the past year since we launched the campaign to stop killer robots in London in April of last year. Governments very quickly now, a year ago, virtually no government had even spoken up on this issue. Now we've got more than 50 governments on record, all expressing concerns, all now saying, yes, this needs to be discussed, needs to be addressed in some way. We don't have a lot of them yet who've agreed that it needs to be banned, but they are all saying, yes, we need to consider different solutions to this. And this Chatham House meeting is a good example of how seriously people are considering the issue after a very short period of time. There will be an ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross Experts meeting next month, and there will be the first meeting of government experts on this in the context of the Convention on Conventional Weapons in May. So it's building very, very quickly.